Welcome to an indie story.
Hello and welcome to an indie story brought to you by the Thoughts and Players podcast. So we have reached episode 2. In this podcast, we like to talk to the indie developer. You know what I'm saying? The real guts and grit kind of person. Not these indie devs where it's like, oh yeah, we're indie developer. We have 700 people working for us. No, that's not how we roll here. So we like to do that. I am Jeremy, and with me I have my co-host Corey.
What up?
I'm glad you did that. I'm glad you stole David's what up. David could not make it. He is here in spirit. But our guest that we have for today is none other than coming from us via Greece. Andreas, how are you?
I'm great. I'm in Greece, so yeah, as you can understand, I'm great about that. And thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor. And I wish you guys the best because I know that you're starting with this thing, and I'm pretty sure that it will be really great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And vice versa. We were excited. We're kind of like trying to understand, reach out to the indie developer, get their story, hear about their journey, become an independent developer. And, we had some people contact us. We had interviewed Madison Williams for Captain Contraband before. And if it wasn't him, it was going to be you, because I saw the game, you had sent the stuff, and I love the art style and the mood of it and everything like that. So I was really excited to talk to you about this game too. So with that being said, we are going to jump in to talking about the game. Now, I think I mispronounced something in our last level with whatever. I think Zweihander, and I didn't say it correctly. So I want to ask, when I say this too, the name of your game is Selini?
Selini, yeah. That's how you can say it, yeah.
Okay.
And
awesome.
And basically Selini is the name of our moon. If you're not aware, our moon is called Selini in Greek, and I think also internationally if you look.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
So it's the name of Earth's moon.
Nice.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
That's very nice. Now, I'm going to let you do, in your own words, how would you describe Selini in regards to, what kind of game might it be that people, if they're interested in looking into it, what kind of game would you describe it as?
Well, technically, if you have to somehow describe it for gamers to understand, it can be something like a 3D puzzle adventure, but you play it in a side-scrolling way, like side-scroller. It's not really a platformer where you jump and do stuff. It's more like an exploring adventure, an emotional exploring adventure. I want to emphasize on that, on the exploring thing. So and it will include a lot of, let's say, it's more oriented to puzzles as well, not really violence or combat systems. So it's, I would say, relaxing and nostalgic experience while playing the game. It's closer to that, let's say, direction.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have a question, because I'm linking the name Selini with meaning the moon and different stuff like that. What inspired you to name the game as that?
Well, I would say that I'm, let's say, arrogant enough and naive enough to to go for the moon from my very first project, even though it's not that. It started because it's been a huge adventure in order this game to reach at this level, because I started from nothing, from zero. I had no idea. I didn't know what a game engine was. So Selini, at the beginning, was the name of a character. Of the main character, which is also a rare female name in Greece. It sounds good. So yeah, back then it was a click and point adventure game, and it's been a huge adventure for me to reach it to what it is today. And it started with that name, but I found out on the way that it means a lot more than that for me. And that it's related to the moon, it's not really, it has something. I found out while doing the game that for some reason, I really love things that are related to the moon anyway. So I loved all the songs that had the moon in it, and I found many, many things that are related to that. So maybe, I don't know, in a subconscious way, it's somehow related to something more than that. But I would say I just, shoot for the moon. Maybe it's a good thing to say about it.
Yeah, it's a good
Okay.
spot to aim for sure.
Yeah.
You had mentioned this was your first project, so I kind of want to know what was like the catalyst for you actually being like, "Hey, I want to develop a game. You know, this is what I want to do right now." Was there a certain point that was like, "Hey, I need to do this," or what's the story behind that?
Yeah. Well, actually, I found out that it's mainly it's about freedom. Before this, I was a freelance photographer. So even as a photographer, I had this feeling of doing like a 9 to 5. I was doing weddings and hotels and Instagram stuff. And also the general condition in Greece, back then, and personal, let's say, situations, made me realize simple things that we have one life, and I'm not going to sit around and do things that are not making me happy. So even though now with Selini I really work a lot, like I work more than ever actually, I feel somehow I feel more free even though I do that, and even during a general lockdown period like the one that we have. And this is because my happiness somehow depends on what I do and not on what is happening. So looking back at it now, I think that this is why I started the game. I could not really tell back then, but I know now that it was actually for this kind of freedom that you have when you really go for the moon, actually.
Right, right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it almost sounds like the game is kind of this like you mentioned, it's like a puzzle explorer action, exploring game or adventure exploring game. So it almost seems like the game is a manifestation of you exploring the things that you actually want in life and what's really important and how you want to be fulfilled and satisfied. So it almost seems like it's coming from like this really deep place. So it almost seems like you're not only developing this game, but the game is kind of further developing a part of you that you want to have out there.
Yeah, that's a good thing with the indie games in general, that they come from the, let's say, from the inner search of the creators, and it's not something that it's tested before it works. So let's make 1,000 similar games in order to sell more, which is normal. I understand, and I enjoy those games, but that's the good thing with the indie, let's say, genre, that you can just make it even personal. Like this game is really, really personal. Even I'm trying to make it because I want to make it also successful, not really financially, but I want to make it a successful game, which comes also with that. So when it's too personal, it might be a bit against that, but at the same time you get to know something different. Like you can, as you said, the freedom, the condition increase, the personal things that my personal, let's say, involvement over the years. You can also see that in the game, and it's not me personally. It's also a lot of people that can relate to that, because I'm not just a lot of people like work from 9 to 5. They want to do something different. A lot of people would like to change something in their lives. So I want, if I can, to a certain level, to show those things in the game, even though it's a bit open to interpretation. I mean, there is no text or speech in the game. So from game testing, it's really cool to observe how people react to a certain, let's say, scene, to a certain image. So depending on what you lived yourself, you can get a completely different interpretation to exactly the same image. So someone sees it and he says, oh, this is because the father does that, and somebody else realizes something completely different related to him. And I really like this element to the game. So the exploring thing that you mentioned is really related also to the freedom part.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Now going back a question, you said you were a photographer before. Did you have any experience developing games at all before you went on
No,
like this journey?
no, as I said, I was really like, naive and arrogant to, I'm just going and do it. And it's really like, at the beginning, I was like super confident, like I'm going to make it and I can do whatever I want, anything. And as I got experience on the way, I was becoming less and less, excited about this, because I realized that it's really, really difficult. It's really difficult to make a game. And but yeah, no, I was actually a photographer. Of course, it helped me for the game, like composition, colors, and things like that. And but I cannot. I was not even playing games when I started. Like I
Okay.
used to play when I was like 18 or something, or 16. I stopped, and when I started making the game, I started playing games again, and yeah, that also changed the development a lot. Like when I started playing games, it's really, really helpful to go ahead, though you have to be a bit careful, because when you have no idea, it's very easy, let's say, to get so many to get affected, let's say, from so many things. So you must have a plan and somehow try to follow that if possible. It's very, very hard, actually. Like making a game is one of the hardest things that you can do.
Yeah. That's interesting because I was thinking about that too. You were saying you were a photographer before, and then you talked about how it helped with composition and color and imagery. So, like, one of the things that obviously stands out to me about this game is the visuals. Like, it's just such a visually interesting looking game. But that also brings me to a question out of interest. So, you have this really visually interesting game that I think is partially helped by your skills as a photographer. But you're going into game development not really knowing anything that much about it. And so I think I noticed that this game that you're building, you build in Unity game engine. So
That's true. Yeah.
so what was, for one, what kind of led you to pick that specifically? And then how was that journey of actually learning the game engine and everything that comes into that? Because that's a whole big box of a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's true, actually. So when I started, first of all, it's been like a huge, let's say, growth for me during this process, because from knowing like nothing, you have to somehow like go and start to programming, 3D animations, sounds, marketing, and even like video trailers, and expose myself and personality, like now in this thing that we're doing here. So it was a huge, like I'm not, I can no longer be the same person that I was before after this. And how I picked up Unity, to be honest, I don't really have the answer like on that, what happened, because when you don't know, just the first thing that comes, you think that, yeah, that's it, I'm going to use it, and it's what you Google, and the first thing that I found, I just used it.
I can jump back to the gameplay real quick. You mentioned it's a puzzler. So like I kind of want to know how you balance having a good puzzle without being frustrating, because a lot of puzzle games, either it's just like, hey, you give up because I can't figure out this puzzle at all, or it's like, okay, you're moving a block to jump onto it to get to the next area, and that's not very engaging. So how did you balance the puzzles in this game to kind of be rewarding throughout?
So actually the question was how you balance a puzzle to be challenging, but at the same time not really frustrating for the player. And I said that's really a good question, because it's part of the soul that I just mentioned earlier. So I tend more in the philosophy of the reward to be the exploration and the new environment, or the new connection with the characters that you find out. And I don't really want to frustrate the players. I just want to always have this flow, like always. I don't want it to be stuck in the game. You should always be able to know what's going to happen somehow next, or where you're going to. And you just have to do these things which have to be pleasant. Like, you have to do, let's say, some pleasant elements in the game, but you know, let's say why, and you know that you're going somewhere. That's very important to feel that you're going somewhere. It will be more like, I guess, games like Inside or which are more easygoing, like or Brothers, for example. Like it has puzzles, but it's not really too complicated, or there will always be a flow. You will never have to get stuck on it.
Not so much about the puzzles, more about the journey. The puzzles are what get you there. Okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Well, there is a slight challenge. Of course, there has to be that, but not really in a way of not really knowing what to do. Like it's very important for a game like Selini, I think, to be a flow and to be more on the audiovisual experience, than just technically see what you have to do and find. I don't want to feel that way. I just wanted to focus more on music and images and sounds and movements, animations. If I have to choose between the two, I would go with this than just have you concentrated on one puzzle, for example, for hours. So yeah, but that's a really tricky thing to try to balance.
I can imagine.
Yeah. And it's actually, this is what I mentioned, the difficult part. Like you have to test all the time the game. Like you have to get feedback. Otherwise, you cannot help, because when I work alone. Of course, I get help on sounds and other things, but I would say like it's a one-man team. Like I don't have someone to do overtime with me to do. I wish I had a team. I dream to have a team, and I guess at some point, if in the future I get the funding, I will go with that. But when you work alone, you somehow lose this sense of, you don't really understand the game. So it's other people playing that mirror what you feel actually. Otherwise, you will not be able to tell, because if you see something like for hours and hours, and you lose a sense of what's going on. So it's really important to test as more often as you can, but at the same time, you shouldn't be affected too much by the opinion of others. You should try to to not lose your vision, because that's also a possibility. Like people will say, no, this is blue, make it red, whatever. You just have to stay focused and filter and get what you need from the feedback. But this is more technical, and it's about development. I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, good, great answer. You'd mentioned the visuals. I think the game looks stunning. I know we had mentioned it a little bit earlier, but can you talk about like the inspiration? Because the game is pretty much like nothing I've ever seen. It almost looks like a different planet, a different world. And can you kind of just talk about your inspiration for like the actual world of this game?
I would say that aesthetically, when I changed, like when I started the game, it was like a click and point puzzle adventure with a cute character. And at some point, I think it was back in 2017, I saw the trailer of Inside from Playdead. I guess you know the game. And I said, wow, okay, no, this is how I'm telling the story. I don't know. I regretted many times on the way for taking that decision, because it's really hard. It's very hard to, like, it looks simple, but you know that doing the simple things and look good, like doing something simple and good, is really difficult. So I'm not sure if that was a good decision or not, but I learned so many things on the way. So Inside was, let's say, an inspiration on how the aesthetics can look, let's say, and how to play the game, in which fashion. But on the way, I was inspired by other games, like Hyper Light Drifter, if you know the game. So I'm somehow trying to marry elements from things that I like without really being committed to, like, okay, I will make this. I just make, what I feel, that's what I want to play, actually. So I say that I would love to be in a world where you have these two characters and you explore and you come back, you collect things, then you move on, then you meet something else. It just goes like that. So technically speaking, we are, let's say, it's like a retro future game. We were somehow in the future, but the visuals can be a bit more, retro and nostalgic, like 80s devices mixed with some futuristic, let's say, elements. So it's a combination of things that I liked, during my whole, let's say, lifetime. And yeah, and I'm trying, as you mentioned, I don't know if it's something that it looks like a game that you haven't seen before, as you mentioned, but I'm trying to keep it as, to not be affected from external factors, but when I want inspiration, to look, inside of me and see what I want to say and just go and do it. And this was actually a very, very crucial moment when the development exploded. I was stuck. I didn't know what to do because I realized that I spent hours on Pinterest or Instagram, looking for images, and I will do this and I want to make it like that. This image is amazing. All right, it was good, but I could not really go to the next level that way. So there was this freedom of development when I just stopped everything. I stopped even tutorials. I stopped images and just opened Unity one day and just put boxes and do whatever I feel. And since that day, since I did that, in 1 year, I had, let's say, the majority of the things that you can see, compared to 3 previous years where I was trying to get affected from external factors. So when you're ready, because you have to be ready for that, just forget about everything else and look inside of you for inspiration. And that unblocked me to go on.
Nice. Now, I am interested because you have all this stuff, like you said, this almost kind of exploring, your inner ideas of what you want and who you are, as well as you're exploring and developing this game. And you have these great visuals, this interesting atmosphere and everything like that. So what you talked about games like Inside, right? Inside is very much has a theme or a message that it's trying to get across to the player. What would you say is the main theme or idea or message you want to get across to people who would pick up and play Selini?
Mm-hmm. All right, there are many aspects on the story, but I'm a father myself. My son is 10 years old, so this father and son relationship always used to inspire, let's say, my creativity. So in the game, together, these two characters will have to explore and discover, let's say, amazing places with beautiful visuals. But soon, somehow, they will realize that, the world and life is not, always fair. Actually, it's not fair at all. And you will understand that resources, are not equally accessible and things like that. And you will have to figure out a way to proceed. But at the same time, you do not have to compromise, let's say, your moral beliefs and things like that. And as I mentioned, because there's no speech or text, there will be things open to interpretation. But generally speaking, this father and son relationship and connection is somehow important to me personally, but other people can be related to different things, as I mentioned. And through that, you can see all these, let's say, social messages and other things in the game. I hope to be able to transfer that and people to really understand. And actually, of course, I would, be happy if people enjoy the game as, let's say, as an entertainment, as an entertaining, let's say, mean. But I will feel successful only if you are able to somehow realize these things in the game, even to little amounts, to understand even environmental harassment and things like that. So I will somehow try to convey that through the game.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm a new father myself. So is this like a game
Really?
I could? Yeah, he's 5 months old, but not ready to play video games yet. But in the future, is this a game I could sit down and we just kind of enjoy together and we both kind of get that message?
That's a good question. I hope so. To be honest, I'm not sure that the game is really addressed to fathers and son,
Okay.
father-son connections, let's say. But the good thing is that you can get related. For example, you and your son, you can definitely get related. But other people who do not have kids, they still can get related to whatever it's their own thing. You know what I mean?
They'll find a connection that's relevant to them.
Yeah,
You know, a
Yeah.
mother or
yeah.
a grandparent or a cousin, something
With
like
the
that. They'll
environment
feel
or
that in the game. Oh, that's
social
awesome.
inequality and things like that, resources. This is things that things that either you want it or not, you're like affected in your life, so you immediately
Right.
understand that something is not fair. But for me, the favorite, let's say, part of the game is the father and son thing, because I'm a father myself, you as well. So I'm sure that you somehow understand this, that you want your kids to, you want to protect your child, but at the same time, you cannot just, put
Yeah.
him in prison to have him fully protected. You know what I mean? You have to have this balance of letting him free to do things, but at the same time be able to protect him. And moral things come in these decisions in the game.
Okay. Sounds like a great theme.
Yeah. Does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I have a question, but what I am going to do is quickly switch my camera because my other one is about to die on me. So hold on 1 second. Got this, and I will switch to this one, which looks not as great, but will do. All right. Okay. So I had read, you had mentioned that the connection you have with your son is kind of inspiring a lot of what the messages behind the game. Now, I also saw on the site that he help play test the game a little bit or
Oh
something?
yeah, he's the main tester actually. So everything, yeah, like he's the first one to test, and now I trust him because at the beginning, right, he was like 8. When I started, he was 6, but now he's 10,
Wow.
and he's played like he's better than me in games anymore. You know what I mean? So he plays like Hollow Knight and things like that, and he's way better than me. So I totally trust him. Like when he says, because he's like 10 years old. Like at this age, you just say whatever you feel. Like you don't have.
You
So
don't
if
have
he
a
says it's
filter.
good, yeah, exactly. I know it's good. If he says no, I know that it's no. And it's a good filter. Like a 10-year-old tester, even though the game is not addressed to 10 years old, you can really they're good for testing games. So kids are always good for testing games, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, they've definitely got like if you got to move, some quick movement or something happens, obviously, they're the ones that got the
Yeah,
response, all that
yeah,
stuff, yeah.
yeah.
And if you say he's playing Hollow Knight, then he's better than me too. So
Yeah. But you will see yourself as well because right, you have a boy or a girl?
I have a boy.
A boy. All right, so it's going to be like a great relationship because now, I mean, all right, it's only 5 months old. I think you haven't even realized what you've done yet. It
No.
takes yeah, it takes some years. So like in 5 years, you will really realize that okay, I have a human, I have a person here. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then starts the good relationship and the good connection. So not good, but the real connection because it's a person
Right.
who can lie, who can just it's different.
Well, it's
And
nice to see
yeah.
that message because you don't see a lot of games doing the father son or even like a parent and child. I know God of War, Last of Us, but it's really kind of an undervalued topic that developers don't really hit as much. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to play it and kind of get those feelings for the first time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, even though it's not really focused to this connection, but
True.
it's actually how how this can affect social behavior. I mean, because you don't really, it's not that you're raising your kid, you just preparing someone for society and things like that. I want somehow with either clues or elements to be there in the game. Like if you want to look for those things, you will be able to see them. So yeah, it's this father thing affects me a lot for setting up the environment and clues and things like that in the game. Yep.
Awesome. Now, you've mentioned that, we've had this whole COVID thing going on, still going on, and that's interesting. So I know you're mostly, this is a one man band here with developing this game, but how has the pandemic had an impact on the development of the game, or has it had one?
I was on full lockdown even before the Corona thing. Like I was like, me personally myself, like I was living exactly the same lifestyle as now with the COVID. Like I didn't change anything personally. Of course, I understand that socially, a lot of things are going on. I don't know. I'm not sure if this is a good or a bad thing because I see that, for example, it was a good time to release a game like the previous months because people are at home, they play more games, and maybe it was a good period for to launch a game during COVID, let's say. Um, but I don't know, because I'm an indie, let's say, developer. Maybe I have some time to catch up with some big because I still keep working. Like even now, I work from home. I do exactly the same thing as I used to do before COVID. I don't know if I have to see it in competitive way, let's say, which I don't. I don't have a talent to be, let's say, competitive and things like that. Maybe for indie developers, this was like a good period. I understand that's not good to say because people are having trouble and issues with the COVID thing. But if you just focus on the on development, for me, I think the pandemic was good for me actually, even if it sounds weird.
Okay, yeah, that's why I was wondering, like what kind of, having it where you're bunkered down, you're working on everything yourself. You don't really have to send out for too many things to get resources to help build your game, if it would have any impact at all. And like you said, we've talked, I think, in previous episodes, on our main podcast about how the pandemic did increase the sales of a lot of games. Like a lot of games performed well because everyone had to be home, had to be safe.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and also in the development aspect, it's even better because, all right, now I'm more or less doing the same things. I don't feel the guilt, of not being able to go out because actually before the pandemic, like I had to stay inside, and while everybody was outside and partying or whatever. Now I don't have this guilt. Like, okay, I'm staying inside while everybody is out. I know that I'm just doing what I do anyway. So
You're helping the cause now.
yeah, exactly.
You're doing your part.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I believe that people are really tiring from this, especially in Greece. We have some riots and things like that. Maybe it was good at the beginning of the pandemic to release a game, but I'm not sure. Like if in a few months it will be a good period because of the financial, let's say, unstable conditions. I don't know. So I wish this thing is over the soonest possible for everyone.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And so I also saw, this is one question I like to ask because it's Corey's thing. So Corey has I want to say a fear. He has a very illogical fear of PC gaming. Okay. Now,
Fear of
yeah,
PC gaming.
I know it's as ridiculous as it sounds. And so recently, I don't know if they had this indie game Valheim that came out that was able to pull Corey into the foray of playing some PC games a little bit. That's a long to give context to this question of, I saw on the site that the game is going to be on Steam for PC. I think I saw for Mac too, right?
Yeah. It's very easy with Unity to make the conversions. Like PC, Mac, and Linux. It's something that you can very, very easily do without. Of course, I have to say that I dream of having a game on a console or all consoles if possible. But for indies, that this is a bit more. You need a little bit of budget, mainly on the testing and stuff. You have to have a different approach. But I don't know. I want to go like also on consoles. Like I'm not a PC guy or console guy, or I don't care about the mean of. I just care about the experience that you get, no matter where you get it from, and ideally, I would love to go everywhere. like on consoles or everywhere where the hardware can allow it for me. So yeah, if possible, even on Twitch.
Nice.
Oh wow.
So console ports somewhere, hopefully down the line here for the game, but right now focusing just more so PC because it's like easier just to distribute it through Steam and different stuff like that. I was just saying that I game on PC, but I also use my Mac for stuff, so I appreciate the Mac thing you're doing right there because this one Frostpunk, I don't know if you've heard of that game. Like it's like an older kind of indie game. They just made their game available for Mac, and that game's been out for like 4 or 5 years. So I very much appreciate. Yeah, I very much appreciate.
Well, but even though you know that it's an international joke to say that I'm a gamer and I'm using Mac, right?
It is. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. As I said, I don't really. I mean, for me, where you're going to feel, let's say, this experience that I would like to provide, it's not really. It is important because it affects where I would be able to publish, but I don't really. It's not my. I don't see why we have to make these separations. Like I will try to really go in everywhere, like if I can, and I will put this because it seems like the project is going to a Kickstarter campaign soon. So this will be something like a stretch goal. Like it will definitely be a stretch goal, and hopefully, if possible, I would like to launch on consoles and Steam at the same time, if possible. But this will depend, on the funding.
Right.
Okay. Do you want to tell us your Kickstarter date? Do you have that already?
I have it. It's the 28th of June, actually. It's not announced yet. Probably. I don't know. But it happens also to be my birthday. So it was a coincidence, but yeah. So
Nice.
28th of June.
Well, it's gonna be a pretty epic birthday, I believe. Then.
Yeah, or nightmare. I don't know because it's very, very stressful.
Yeah. Let's see here. Well, I mean, I know that people, if they want to, that they can add the game to their Steam wish list right now. Correct?
Yeah, they can do.
Cool.
They can just go on Steam and wishlist the game, but only if you feel that you have to do it. Like I don't want to gather like wishlist and numbers. I just want real people who are interested.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So what I'm going to do is because I think I have it wish listed, or I have to make sure that I do that because again, I saw this game and I'm like, oh, okay, I gotta play this, and I'm gonna make sure that we include the links to the Steam wish list as well as all the other stuff, the Twitter, the YouTube stuff, anything like that. We're gonna make sure that we include it. Now, Corey, did you have any more questions for our friend Andreas here?
I think I'm all set. And you know what, Jeremy? I think I will get it on PC, so don't worry about it, all right?
Okay.
I'm going for it.
All right, good. There we go.
Great.
All right. Oh, great. Fantastic. Well, then here's what I want to do. I want to definitely extend a thank you to you, Andreas, because I know there's a crazy time difference. And so really appreciate you being able to make yourself available for this. And just being a nice joy to talk to. It was really awesome to get your perspective on a lot of different things. And like I said, the way that you were inspired to create this game, you described creating this game as freedom, even though it's more work because it has something that speaks to you and you have passion for. It's kind of like this, you're able to really be yourself almost, which I think is like just an absolutely awesome thing to be able to do.
Yeah, and I hope you do the same with what you're starting and doing with this channel. At some point, you will be able to, to see it that way, like to be free on this, from what you're doing actually. So thank you very much for the invitation. I really enjoyed talking to you guys, and maybe we can do it again or see you in person in Greece after all this crazy period. Yeah,
absolutely.
And yeah, you can come with your son as well, Corey.
All right, if you got an extra room, I would stay there. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
You have a place to stay. Don't worry about that.
Thank you so much.
There's also the thing that Corey won't tell you. He said his son's 5 months old, already a better gamer than him. So if you need anything tested or anything tried, you give it to the 5-month-old. You don't give it to this guy.
I just Well, that's why I invite you. Actually, I want a tester. I don't want you to come to.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'll drop him off. You can watch him for a couple weeks.
Drop him off. Drop him off and just wave as you sail away.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that is going to do it for this indie story. The game, Selini, Andreas, the developer. This guy is doing everything, and he is creating this game with so much passion. I absolutely love it. Guys, make sure that you check it out on Steam, on YouTube. Again, we're going to have links to it everywhere. We're going to also have some footage of it intercut in throughout this interview so you guys can also see it there. We would prefer or suggest that maybe you watch it on YouTube because we think the video version of it is the best, but we're also going to have it on a regular audio podcast service. You know, we have it on Spotify and Stitcher and Apple and Google and all that stuff. And make sure you follow us on the socials so you can know when it drops. So we are on Facebook. You can follow us on facebook.com/thoughts and players, all one word, as well as on Instagram at thoughts.players. Selini is on Instagram. We follow him, and he's dropping these beautiful screenshots all the time. So make sure you're plugged in there. We are also on Twitter, Thoughts Players 2. And you can find us on TikTok at Thoughts Players. Corey, am I missing anywhere? Did I nail them all?
I lost after like 3 or 4 of them. We got like 15 at this point, so I think you're good.
Okay, cool. Well, once again, I want to thank Andreas for joining us. I want to thank my co-host Corey. I guess he did okay.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you guys for listening. Make sure you catch an indie story, and we will catch you on the next level. See ya.